Assalamu alaikum, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the SIL Legal Lounge podcast, Let's Talk Law, a show where we talk about different areas of law and policy in a frank and easy to understand manner so that everyone can end up learning something new. My name is Nida Tareen, and I am the principal of the School of International Law, a recognized teaching center for the University of London International Programs. Our topic for today is especially important given the month of March. March is when you have the International Women's Day celebrated all over the world. And the topic that we have chosen for today is the question of women representation in bar councils and why fair representation matters in Pakistan. Our guest for today is someone who I consider to be an expert on the topic. We have advocate Nida Usman Chaudhry, who is an international award winning diversity and inclusion advocate and the founder of Women in Law Initiative Pakistan. She holds both an LLB honors and an LLM from the University of London and has over 20 years of experience in research training, teaching, and capacity building. Furthermore, she has also provided legislative and policy input on several key women and child right laws in Pakistan, including guidelines under the Anti Rape Ordinance of 2020 and the amendments to the Workplace Harassment Act of 2022. And her areas, amongst others, will include gender and justice sector and fair representation in law. I hope I didn't miss anything out. Nida, Nida, my namesake. We're going to be confused during this podcast over our names.
Absolutely, absolutely. Thank you so much, Nida, for having me, and particularly to talk about something which is so close to my heart and has been somewhat of a life struggle by now. So I'm really happy to be talking to you about this.
Very happy to have you here with us. So, okay, Nida, I'm going to start with the most basic question, and I'll let you know that when we were sort of planning to record our podcast, so I had a few young female lawyers with me as well, and they also wrote down a few questions. So hopefully
Oh,
this is going to clear out a lot of misconceptions for
yeah.
law students, female law students, as well as practicing lawyers, female lawyers as well. So, the most basic question: what exactly is a bar council? And what role does it play in Pakistan's legal system? And why is representation in Pakistan Bar Council so important?
So yeah, thank you so much for this question because हम अपने लॉ डिग्रीज में हम सब कुछ पढ़ लेते हैं लेकिन हम अपने जो रेगुलेटरी बॉडी है और वो उसकी क्या पावर्स हैं क्या स्कोप है क्या फंक्शंस है उसी को नहीं जो है वो स्टडी करते हैं एंड आई थिंक दैट्स वेयर वी गो रॉन्ग एंड आई फील लाइक एज एन इंस्टीट्यूशन my recommendation to you also would be to have more awareness sessions around the regulatory body itself and what their functions are and what kind of role they play so that students are also of course informed. And I think this podcast can be the first step in that direction. Essentially, the bar council is the main regulatory body that regulates the entire profession, and these are the statutory bodies that have the mandate when once elected for a period of 5 years. So they're like the, you can say, the assembly within the legal profession because they're responsible for our enrollment as advocates. They're responsible for setting the code of conduct that the lawyers have to abide by. They also have sought for themselves additional roles within regulating legal education now. And of course, I mean, everything that is associated with the profession in terms of disciplinary proceedings or providing certain facilities and access for ensuring that lawyers have certain facilities, the bar councils are the main bodies who are statutorily mandated to perform these roles and tasks. And I think it's important to distinguish them from a bar association, which is more of a representative body. It is an association that works like something along the lines of a club that would have members and then they would provide facilities for the members. So they do also take on some representative roles and struggle for rule of law and democracy on the streets, and they protest as well. But their main role as bar associations is essentially to provide services to the lawyers. But the bar council is the main body that is the one that is regulating our profession. And by that, what I mean is that everything that from your enrollment procedure to what documents and technical requirements are required for you to even register yourself as an advocate, or to then proceed on towards being an advocate of the High Court or the Supreme Court. So your progression and advancement in the career is essentially in the hands of this regulatory body. And whatever structures you have within the system, whether it is for these elections itself or how the system is going to work, what kind of laws and policies for lawyers they're going to be working on. For example, they were instrumental in passing the Lawyers Welfare and Protection Act in 2023. And the idea of welfare was completely male centric in that piece of legislation, because the bar councils were completely devoid of any representation of female lawyers. They did not consult female lawyers. And therefore, when you have women missing from these bodies and these leadership positions within the bar, the challenges that female lawyers are facing, or the issues that we face, or the idea of welfare, for example, that we as female lawyers might have, which may include places like daycare centers to be established within the premises of the court, or workplace harassment committees to be established, or parental leave policies to be initiated. All of that kind of lived experience of female lawyers, the separate washrooms that they require, or the separate entry and exit that they may need in order to come into the High Court premises to vote for these elections, all of these concerns that female lawyers face within the profession, then they do not get reflected when these bodies take on these issues and promote reforms in certain laws. And I
So
think
sorry
that
to
is the
cut you, Nida.
biggest.
So why
Yeah.
do you think women are underrepresented in these bodies?
That's a very interesting question, and I think it's something that's very important to address, because the common misconception is that women are not themselves interested and they themselves don't come forward, and it's a level playing field for all. If they meet the merit, if they fight the election, they can also come into these bodies. But our research has told us that these elections, as I've mentioned, happen every 5 years. And just before the election cycle, we have identified a pattern in the reform and amendments in the Legal Practitioner and Bar Council Act of 1973. And every year before the election, or 2 years before the election, there's an amendment in this statute that keeps shifting the goalpost of eligibility for candidates by another 5 years or so. And they keep adding the technical requirements. So, women, for example, who would have qualified to be eligible to even be a candidate, for example, in the 2020 elections, were disqualified or not eligible to do so, because in 2018 the law was amended, and instead of a period of 10-year practice, a period of 15-year practice was substituted, which meant that they would have to, sort of work for another 3 years or so
So they're
to meet
ineligible for
15-year
now.
eligibility.
Yeah.
So exactly. So what they do is they keep adding on these periods of eligibility, so that there is a lot of gatekeeping that way. And new voters, particularly women, are always sort of left behind because they never are allowed to meet the requirements. And this is the same thing that happened in 2025 as well. So they kept on adding requirements, like they need to have argued 30 individual cases that are decided. And decisions of cases are not in the hands of advocates. When a decision of a case would come is dependent on so many external factors. So when you add technical barriers like these every time before the elections are supposed to be held, then you are in no place to say that women are not interested in coming forward and be eligible. But of course there are other reasons as well. There's a lot of resources that go, there's a lot of mobility issue, the environment within which the campaigning for these elections has to take place, and you have to travel to outside cities as well. Sometimes women just don't have that kind of support and resources available.
Okay, so Nida, it's since I don't practice law, I went towards academia. You are practicing law currently, so it's really important to always ask this question. So, do female lawyers feel that their concerns are heard at decision-making levels, or is it completely out of the question?
So yeah, like you, I also actually went into academia because I am not actively practicing, but I study the legal profession and I study the justice sector. And my entire research has been about looking at how the profession is structured. And therefore, I get to meet a lot of women who are practicing and to hear about what is going on, what their challenges are, and whether they're reflected or not. The short answer to your question, Nida, really is that no. And I just gave you the example of the Lawyers Welfare and Protection Act, with the idea of welfare is that, oh, you should be the legal advisor of three companies, and that's the idea of welfare. Whereas for a woman, when I spoke to the female lawyers, they were like, where is the concept of daycare? Where are the parental leave policies? What about our maternity benefits? What about flexible work arrangements in law firms? I mean, nobody even talks about these issues, or separate and clean washrooms, or even ramps for differently abled persons. Like, this is the idea of welfare that a woman or a marginalized person in the profession would have. But when they're not part of these consultations or committees or bodies, these ideas just don't find their way into the policy making and the resulting reforms. And that's a very big concern, which is why it's important to have more women and diverse representation in these bodies.
Okay, so you mentioned how women are not as active. They are not basically contesting either because it could be a lack of resources. It could be a lack of a support system. There could be many issues. So let's talk about solutions and the way forward. What could you do to rectify this imbalance? Should there be reserved seats for women in the bar councils? Why? Why not? What would you say about that?
So, affirmative action is definitely the only way to correct the kind of imbalances that we currently have in the system, because the number of women registered as advocates are far less than the number of male advocates. And because sometimes a lot of women also don't end up voting for the female candidates because of the political influences and party alliances, we know that the number game is definitely not going to be it that will in the short run be able to get women uh, into these bodies in a way which is fair, where they're fairly represented. So you do need some affirmative action, and your constitution under articles 25 and 34 sort of also call for that, because आपको इन इदारों के अंदर भी affirmative action लेने की जरूरत है. Now that could look like one of the affirmative actions could be a quota system, but another way that South Africa and other countries have done is that they have sort of given a twist to the idea of quota, and they say something like that no single gender should comprise more than two-thirds of the composition of a certain body. And I think that's a more positive way of wording how the gender balance and representation should look like within these bodies, because it's not just sort of focused on women being a certain percentage in the body, but it sort of speaks to gender as a broader identity, where even if men are being discriminated against, and we see a time where more women are coming into these bodies, you will still be able to use that language to ensure that that kind of balance is there for all genders. And I think that's one way to correct these issues. But there's a lot more that needs to be done. Like I mentioned about all the technical and legal barriers that they keep on adding through amendments to the Legal Practitioner and Bar Council Act. And I think the first and foremost thing that can immediately be done is to review all of those technical barriers, like that of 30 decided cases and so many years of practice, from a gender and inclusion lens, and to create pathways within the law that can enable more women to come. Another thing that needs to happen is the pathway to obtain your license as an advocate of the Supreme Court needs to be streamlined and segregated for women, so that their interviews come sooner than they currently do, because Pakistan Bar Council members are indirectly elected from the members who are, or by the members who are elected to the provincial bar council. So if I'm a member of the provincial bar council, say the Punjab Bar Council, I will be one of those voting for the members of the Pakistan Bar Council as well. And over there, there's requirement that, in order to be a candidate for the Pakistan Bar Council elections, you also need to be an advocate of the Supreme Court. Currently, only 4% of women are advocates of the Supreme Court, and that is because of, again, the technical requirements that there are, which you need for your license, right? So many number of years, so many decided cases, and then an interview, which often doesn't get scheduled in reasonable time. So you lose out on a lot of time, and therefore women are not there are even fewer women at the Pakistan Bar Council level, essentially. So, this entire scheme of indirect elections of the Pakistan Bar Council, where only the provincial bar council members are voting, this process also keeps women out, and I think that can also be reformed. Or one of the ways through which we can get more women is to also look at how the advocate Supreme Court requirements, the license requirements can be reformed. So it's all interconnected. It's not, you can't have more women in these bodies without looking at the
So it's
system
not
as a
that
whole.
simple. We need to really,
Yeah,
dig deep at the structural
yeah,
level, really.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Okay.
I
So,
mean, we can also go down to how the law firms are not allocating work on an equal basis and giving opportunity to the female counterparts or female associates to go and represent cases in the court for active legal practice,
but
right? So,
doesn't
I
this
mean,
then bring us to, to the very essential, question and the basic problem that we have, that generally speaking, women are always going to be 10 steps behind as far as their male counterparts, and they have to put in 10 times the effort and 10 times, the work really to get anywhere.
yes, of course, with the current system, for sure. But there are ways that other countries have also, worked things around. For example, you can have gender balanced teams, and a law firm can, ensure that if a male counterpart is working on a case, then the female is also assigned the same, is on the same team, and is facilitated to go to the courts and represent, and is her attendance is also being reflected in the court hearings, and with the reader it's being marked. So these are very little things, but law firms can ensure that their female counterparts are not overlooked when these details and these technicalities are being entered in the court procedures, so that whenever a judgment does come, it does reflect that the female associate was also present, she was also there. So because mostly they only give the name of the either the leading counsel or the male counterpart or the male associate who was assisting, even if the female is there, so her presence doesn't get counted. And I think these are little things that our male colleagues can do for us, or seniors can do for us, to ensure that we get our due, and we our attendance gets marked, and we get our names get reflected in the judgments. I mean, it's not rocket science to make sure that inclusion happens even within the existing system,
Yeah.
but it's just that there is a lot that needs to be done. But we can start at the micro levels. हम अपने अपने level पे तो सब शुरू कर सकते हैं ना.
That was actually going to be my next question, that you have spoken about how it is a male dominated field and sector. So, what role can senior male lawyers play to bring about some sort of, gender equality? But as you've said, yes, they need to probably try and allocate more work for their female colleagues as well, and just to make things a little easier.
Yeah, I'll give you another example of Muhammad Ahmed Qayyum Saab. In Punjab Bar Council, in the previous tenure, we only had one female from like there were 75 seats, and only one was a female. The
Oh, wow. One
74.
out of 75.
Yeah, yes, exactly. And right now in Pakistan, when you put all the bar councils together, including the provincial bar councils and the Pakistan Bar Council, you only have two females, in one in Peshawar and one in Punjab. Sindh
Wow.
also has none. Islamabad has none. So, like, I mean, that is the situation, that only two women out of 183 male, members of these bar councils. So you can see the extent of disparity. But what somebody like Muhammad Ahmed Qayyum did was, in the previous tenure with Rushta Lodi Saiba, proposing that there needs to be a separate additional seat for the VP seat, the vice president seat for females. In all bar associations, and they got that requisition. They wanted to ensure that all bar associations at least should have an additional VP seat for women. That was passed, and then the male lawyers gave them such a huge backlash to this idea that they had to literally take it back, and it was rolled back. So the least we expect from our male colleagues is that if a male senior in a leadership role has decided to support something like this that was proposed by a female member, the least you can do is stand by it, right? You should at least honor that. And little things. Once, when Sabahat Rizvi and Rabia Bajwa were standing for the elections in for the Lahore High Court Bar Association, we got a separate entry lane for women to enter. And they were even fighting for that, that why do women have this separate entry? And they wanted to barge in from that route also, because the male line was really crowded. And I was like, why can't you just give us this space? So why can't online voting systems be developed so that women have a dignified, harassment free environment within which to come and vote, or all of that? So there is so much that one can do. They can invest in technology, they can uh, push for law reforms, they can support what women are asking for, they can stand behind women. Unfortunately, that's not what's happening at the moment. In fact, once I was very new to the profession, and this president at that time of the bar association looked at me and said, why are you even here? आप तो कहीं भी जा सकती हैं, कुछ भी कर सकती हैं, आप प्रैक्टिस करने क्यों आ गई हैं? आप हमारे शेयर में से यू नो कम हो जाएगा, सो जो आदमियों का, क्लाइंट्स का शेयर होता है, और समथिंग, लाइक द insinuation was that you are stealing from our share, or you're taking away clients from who would otherwise be just. It was just insane, and I was like so new to the whole field at that time that I didn't really know what to say to him. But I was like, how is this, how is my practice affecting your right to
How
get
is your
your
existing, just the
how
fact that you're
exactly.
existing, affecting anything?
Exactly. I mean, had I been a man, he would never have said that to me. That I am, he would never look at me from the perspective of snatching away his opportunities or clients or whatever. But I mean, the mindset is such a problem, because even today, we are seen as outsiders. We had the 100-year photo exhibition that was in
Yeah.
honor of the law that had to be passed for removal of doubts as to whether women could practice law or not, and it was passed in 1923. So it means that men were admitted to the profession much sooner, and they never needed any law that removed any doubts as to whether they could practice law or not, right? So I think that philosophy or that mindset continues, and we are still viewed as outsiders, as intruders rather, कि हम घुस गए हैं और हम उनका शेयर ले रहे हैं or something. So I think they need to see us as equal partners, as equal stakeholders, and I think that's what's not coming through. We are not staking a claim as equal stakeholders at the moment, and that's where I think more women can play a better role and rally behind each other and stand behind
So,
each other.
but all that you have basically, sort of spoken about right now, the realities really of the practice, that's depressing. So, again, we have to keep moving forward. That's what women do. We have to, sort of get up and start again and do what we have to do. Uh, so, the question that I'm asking you next is really, really important. What message do you have for aspiring female lawyers in Pakistan?
I think the most important thing that they can do is get access to information in a timely fashion, particularly information that is aligned with their career goals. So, for example, if they want to be a member of the judiciary at some point, then very early on in their careers, they need to know what are the technical barriers and requirements that they need to fill, what kind of legal practice experience they're required, how many cases they need to show as lead counsels or whatever. So whatever, so whether it's for bar councils, whether it's for judiciary, whether it's for their license as advocate, Supreme Court, I think being aware of these technical requirements is key. And a lot of women, particularly who are first generation lawyers, do not have that kind of access, because this information is not conveniently or readily available. It's actually been one of our recommendations to the bar councils as well, that all of this information needs to be very easily available and accessible. In fact, they need to create awareness programs and conduct trainings on these issues, so that when young lawyers enter the profession, they know from day one what their path and what the requirements look like. Only then can they really stake a claim in the profession, because I lost out on 4 years of seniority because I never understood the importance of acquiring my license in time. It's only when I got married into a family full of lawyers that I was made to realize the importance of it. And then I got my procedures done and my, license. And
I remember
by
I
that,
got my license 8 years
yeah,
after I
Yeah, so
graduated. So
I didn't realize the importance of it. And so you see, that was because I was also a first generation lawyer, nobody to guide me, nobody to tell me what happens. So even if you're not practicing, but still your license determines your seniority in the profession, and seniority and all of these things are so integral to your appointments and advancement in maybe other fields and directions that you may want to explore in the profession. So,
yeah.
like if you want to switch to judiciary or whatever, so all of these dates then become so significant. So, I think my message to women would be to not be discouraged, to not let anybody tell you that you shouldn't be a criminal lawyer or you shouldn't do active practice or whatever. You should explore your options, and then once you have a career goal in mind, um, and whatever steps you need for your advancement, you should get full information about it from day one and stay updated because it keeps changing, so that आप कम से कम टेक्निकल किसी बैरियर की वजह से नॉकआउट ना होए, because that's what happens most of the time, that हम टेक्निकल एलिजिबिलिटी नहीं मीट कर रहे होते, तो वो एक्सक्यूज इनका ख़त्म करने के लिए औरतों को इस इन चीज़ों की अवेयरनेस का होना ज़रूरी है. इवन मर्दों को, like lots of boys also don't know about all of these things till much later, but women in particular obviously don't even have that kind of networks or channels through which this information comes to them, so they need to be actively engaged on that front.
All right. Okay. That was really, really insightful, Nida. And like I said, it was a little depressing, but at the end of the day, I think the message that you've given is really important. I think the problem really is that a lot of young female lawyers don't really know what they need to do in order to, sort of climb that ladder in the judiciary or in the legal profession as well. And like you said, don't delay making your license, get your license made as soon as possible.
Yeah,
That's something I think both of us faced in our careers as well. But
absolutely.
Nee, thank you so much. This was really, really helpful. I am so glad that we could schedule this finally. We were going back and forth, our schedules were just not matching. It was wonderful to have you here. And best of luck with the Women in Law initiative. I know that that is something you have worked tirelessly on for so many years. And I think that is also a very rich source of information for female lawyers on the practice, on the profession, on what it is that they need to do to actually achieve their goals.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for the opportunity. And, I would just want to add one thing, that the surveys that we've done, the studies that we have published, they're all available. If anybody after this podcast is interested in accessing that kind of information, so whatever we could manage within our personal sphere, we have a lot of information compiled now to be able to guide and facilitate female lawyers who are interested. I think one other thing that I would like you to work on, I mean, giving you work as well, is that a lot of times I've noticed that there's a disconnect between students, particularly who doing the University of London programs and who want cushiony jobs in corporate law firms. There's a lot of disconnect with the people who go into bar politics and people who are actual lawyers. That kind
Yeah.
of mindset also exists, that stops them from really taking or claiming their stake in the bar profession. And I think that also needs to be looked at a little bit, as to how can you create that awareness within the students themselves, that they should eventually consider having a stake in the profession by going and voting, by then eventually standing up as candidates also. A lot of people stay away from it, particularly women, because they've reported that there's uncouth behavior of the colleagues. If they stand as candidates, then they get character assassinated as well. So a lot of these things push them back. In Islamabad Bar Council, I remember there were two female candidates for the 2025 elections, but before the elections, they withdrew their applications, and ultimately there were zero female candidates standing for the elections. And obviously, if there are not going to be enough women or any women at all standing up for these elections, then you will not see them translate into membership within the bodies as well.
Yeah.
So I think that disconnect also needs to be, like removed or somewhat bridged. And for that, the Women Law Initiative obviously is always here as a support network, but also as a source of whatever information we can provide to facilitate anybody who's interested. And at the same time keep pushing for better regulation, keep demanding better from the people who do get elected, keep asking for your inclusion, keep asking for safe environment, safety at workplace for these people who are currently in these bodies, even if they're not women, but they can be gender sensitive
Yeah.
enough to have workplace harassment
That's
policies
actually
and
a
all.
very good point. Be
Yeah,
gender sensitive, regardless of
be
what
gender.
your gender is.
Exactly. So, the young lawyers and students can demand better from the existing leadership as well. I think the students and the young lawyers need to push the bar to set up a fund to support these students for maybe international mooting competitions or something. So essentially what I'm saying is that, you don't have to be an active member of the bar to play a role in making the profession better. I think we can all play that role, and we should just realize what we all can do to demand better from the current leadership as well, and at the same time prepare a pipeline for students and candidates for future role in the bar, as in a leadership capacity and role. So I mean, that would be something that I would really encourage SIL to consider.
SIL and every other law school as well.
Every
Everyone
other
should
law school
consider
as
that.
well. Of course, of
Yeah.
course. It's not entirely your responsibility, but since I was speaking to you, I was just saying that maybe, इसके ऊपर भी सोचने की अब जरूरत है कि educational institutions और students और female lawyers हम सारे मिलके क्या कर सकते हैं, even existing अपनी capacity में और उसमें.
बिल्कुल एब्सोल्युटली लाइक जितनी भी अवेयरनेस हो आई थिंक दैट इज अ गुड थिंग एंड सबने मिल के काम करना है वी ऑल हैव टू ट्राई एंड फाइंड कॉमन ग्राउंड जिसमें एवरीबडी इज बीइंग सपोर्टेड रिगार्डलेस ऑफ वेदर दे आर मेल और फीमेल एंड again at the end of the day we are trying to work for the betterment of society. We're all trying to work for the betterment of our country. So thank you so much once again, Nida. Lovely conversation, really really helpful, and I think a much needed conversation like you said. And definitely ये जो आपने बात की है ना कि a lot of us there is this disconnect, हमें नहीं पता होता. And आई थिंक लॉ स्टूडेंट्स को या जूनियर जो अब ये लॉ ग्रेजुएट्स सब निकल रहे हैं दे नीड टू नो अबाउट दिस. दे नीड टू नो हाउ एग्जैक्टली द प्रोफेशन वर्क्स. दे नीड टू नो अबाउट द रेगुलेटरी अथॉरिटीज एंड लाइक यू सेड दे नीड टू हैव अ वॉइस within the system as well and do whatever they can. So एक जरा एक active role जो है role of participation होना ज़रूरी है. Thank you so much for this, and to everyone watching, I hope you found this session helpful. If you have any questions, please feel free to email us at info@sil.edu.pk, and I will be more than happy to forward those questions to Nida and she can answer those questions. And thank you so much for watching once again. Have a wonderful day. Ramzan Mubarak to everybody. Thank you and Allah Hafiz.